The Harvest.
Good afternoon to you, Africa. This is Imene Nouad with the latest news from across the continent and around the world, and starting with Algeria as it fully reopens its national airspace to Malian flights as of today, allowing all flights to and from Mali through international routes. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune also orders the return of Algeria's ambassador to Bamako, whereas Mali, from its side, announces the return of its ambassador to Algiers and the reopening of its airspace to Algerian flights as well. The reciprocal measures marks a significant step towards restoring normal bilateral relations between the two nations. The High Council of Imrad and Allies, CSIA, welcomes the normalization of diplomatic relations between Mali and Algeria. The Council says the reopening of airspace and the return of ambassadors marks a new phase of cooperation and describes strong ties between the two neighboring as essential for peace, security and stability across the Sahel-Saharan region. Now shifting to other updates, activities marking the African Anti-Corruption Day began today in Algiers under the patronage of Algeria's President Abdelmajid Tebboune. The event brings together government officials, transparency institutions and economic stakeholders as strength efforts in preventing and combating corruption. Discussions focus on promoting transparency, good governance and integrity across the public institutions. Algeria reaffirmed its commitment to international security cooperation during the 5th United Nations Chiefs of Police Summit in New York. Director General of National Security Ali Badawi highlights the importance of strengthening bilateral coordination, training and participation in UN peacekeeping operations. He also underlines Algeria's support for collective efforts to address transitional security challenges. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, from his side, reiterates his country's unwavering support for the Sahrawis' people's right to self-determination and independence. He says that South Africa will continue defending this right in line with African Union principles and international legitimacy. Pretoria also reaffirms its long-standing support for a just and lasting solution to Western Sahara issue. Now shifting to security updates in Sudan, as Sovereign Council Chairman Abdel Fattah al-Burhan says the country's future will only be determined through Sudanese consensus, stressing that the armed forces will continue supporting the people until stability is restored. Meanwhile, more than 2 million displaced residents have returned to Al-Khartoum despite extensive damage to infrastructure, limited electricity and water supplies, as well as a slow recovery of public services. On that regard, thousands of Sudanese students displaced by the conflict also continue to face major obstacles in resuming their education. Nigerian security forces rescued 39 school children and 6 teachers kidnapped nearly 2 months ago in Oyo State, while 8 suspected kidnappers are arrested. Separately, the army says it killed more than 300 armed bandits during a 2-day operation in Zamfara State, describing it as a major success against violent crime. Authorities in this regard pledge to continue efforts to improve security and bring those responsible for kidnapping to justice. Now shifting to health security updates in the DRC, the spread of the Ebola to a fourth province after 7 deaths are recorded so far in Ouile. The latest epidemiological data shows around 1,830 confirmed cases and 648 deaths across 4 affected provinces. The health authorities urge population to remain calm and follow public health measures as surveillance and response efforts are intensifying as we speak. Now, in the economic front, the global cocoa prices continue to rise as forecasts of a strong El Niño raise concerns over upcoming harvest in West Africa. The weather phenomenon threatens cocoa production in Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, the world's 2 largest producers, after heavy rains and crop diseases raise fear of lower output. Analysts warn tighter supply could keep international cocoa prices elevated in the coming months. Iririlin shares more on cocoa and climate change. Let's hear it in this report.
The global cocoa market is once again on alert as forecasts of a strong El Nino threatens harvest in West Africa, the region that supplies more than 60% of the world's cocoa. Cocoa prices, which has eased earlier this year on expectations of stronger harvests, have now rebounded to their highest level in 6 months as fears grow over the impact of El Nino on Western African production. The U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration warns the El Nino expected later this year could be among the strongest in 75 years. Heavy rains have already damaged cocoa blossoms in Ghana and accelerated the spread of black pod disease, while flooding and crop diseases are also affecting Côte d'Ivoire. Analysts now expect Ivorian cocoa production to decline to between 1.7 to 1.8 million tons next season, raising concerns that tighter supplies could drive global cocoa prices even higher in the months ahead.
Still in the economic front, Air Algérie receives the first of its new aircraft as part of its fleet modernization program, taking delivery of a Boeing 737 MAX 8 named Al Houariya or Liberty, named Al Hurriya, as in Liberty. The national carrier also receives the first ATR 72-600 aircraft for its domestic subsidiary to strengthen air links across the country. In addition, the group integrates its new Air Taste Factory catering center capable of producing up to 40,000 meals a day as part of efforts to modernize services and support of the airlines in the future growth. Now shifting to cultural news, a centuries-old African tradition surrounding the disposal of umbilical cord is in focus today. Once regarded as a sacred link between the child, the family, and their ancestors, now the practice is gradually and slowly disappearing in the modern era. More from our cultural storyteller Charlotte Hawamiridza in this report.
For generations, the umbilical cord carried a special connection between the child, their family, and their ancestors. Across different cultures, customs varied. Some families buried it near the family home, symbolizing the child's bond with their roots. Others chose special locations believed to offer protection and blessings. In some traditions, people were careful about who handled the cord and where it was placed. It was not considered ordinary waste. It was viewed as something connected to the child's identity and future. Today, however, the beliefs are shifting. In hospitals, the umbilical cord is now banned as medical waste. Only a small number of people still consider it sacred and follow traditional disposal methods. This change reflects a broader transformation. The world is modernizing and people's views are evolving. Yet the tradition reminds us that our ancestors understood something profound, that even the smallest part of us carries the weight of identity, belonging, and hope of the generations to come.
From cultural news to sports update, as Kenya's Emmanuel Wanyonyi sets a new world record in men's 1,000 meters at the League Monaco Diamond League, clocking 2 minutes 11 seconds and 83 part of a second, whereas Algeria's Jamal Sijati finishes the third with another strong performance, while Botswana's Busang's Kibina Chipi sets a new Diamond League record in the men's 400 meters. These are all the updates we harvested today. Thank you for paying attention to the full list. It was directed by Yasmin Bekay, control board with Mustafa, streaming with Islam, and observation with Malika. And you, dear listeners, enjoy the rest of our programs with your favorite radio channel Ifriqiya FM, the voice of Africa.